Hello, Pastor Stewart here with a midweek Bible study video back from our break. We took about a 2-month break while we were going through the season of Lent to help us get ready for Easter. So instead of the regular midweek Bible study discussion videos that I was putting out, the church staff switched to a Monday, big start of the week, noontime Lent reflection type of video. So we hope that you enjoyed those and that they blessed you, that they challenged you and made you think as well. And now we have had Easter and it was bright and it was inspiring. So we're getting back out into the world and we return to the Bible study series that we had been doing before the season of Lent started. We were in the book of Proverbs. And if you're having a hard time remembering what those earlier lessons were about, that's okay. Or if you didn't watch the videos from those earlier lessons, that's okay too, because Proverbs as a book isn't like some other Bible books where it's a story and people do things and things happen in like a narrative kind of linear flow. The book of Proverbs is just that. It is a book of sayings, proverbs, advice, instruction, tips, that kind of thing. So you won't be behind if you don't remember the earlier stuff or you didn't watch them. That's okay. The whole book of Proverbs is meant to help its readers to grow and to gain in wisdom. So a lot of the passages are even directed to students or young people. Some of the passages in Proverbs they are written as if wisdom herself is speaking to us, and it uses that kind of language. That's the language Proverbs uses, and it says, "I wisdom," or it says like wisdom. She watches over us at the gates, and she was there at the beginning, and then wisdom speaks to us. But then a lot of the book of Proverbs is kind of like one line, good, short, sweet, to the point kind of sayings. And that's what we're going to find here as we jump into chapter 12. And again, we're reminded what Proverbs reminds us is that everybody grows on the outside, but not everyone grows on the inside. That's what Proverbs wants to help us with. It wants to help us grow on the inside. We can all see everyone's examples of growing on the outside, little gray hair, there's some wrinkles. Everybody grows on the outside. There's no denying that. But not everybody really grows on the inside and develops wisdom and matures. Proverbs wants to help with that. Tonight, our verses are about words and the words that we use. Words are very powerful. They leave an impact. Words can heal or they can harm. Words can clarify a situation or confuse a situation. Words can create peace or they can cause strife. So one aspect of being a wise and mature, godly person is being mindful of our speech and the words that we use, not speaking foolishly or carelessly. And that dichotomy, that comparison between wisdom and foolishness, being wise, not being a fool, we'll see that here again, like many other verses and passages in Proverbs. They will show, here's what it looks like to live wisely. Here's what it looks like to live as a fool. And when we talk about this kind of wisdom, it's not about academic knowledge. It's not about doing well on tests or earning good grades or getting a lot of degrees in school. It's not so much academic intelligence, it's emotional intelligence. It's how you approach life. Do you approach life with wisdom or do you approach life with foolishness? A wise person is always seeking out the best in life for themselves and for others. They do so on purpose. They're conscious of it. They're aware. They recognize what's going on, what they're doing. On the other hand, a foolish person is thoughtless. They just do whatever they feel like, whatever they want to do, which usually ends up hurting other people and making their own lives harder. So let's jump into Proverbs chapter 12 and see what it says about the words that we use. We're going to start in verse 14. And since these are an example of kind of one line proverb instructions and tips, proverbial wisdom, then we'll just kind of go verse by verse mainly. So let's look at Proverbs chapter 12, verse 14. From the fruit of his lips, a man is filled with good things, as surely as the work of his hands reward him. So this starts us out with why words are important. Words make a difference. Just like when you work with your hands, you can build something or you can tear something down. You can improve it and fix it, or you can smash it all to pieces and make it worse. Words are the same way for others and for yourself. So making sure that your speech is helpful, productive, builds things up is a blessing both to you, and your life will be better for it, and other people's as well. Sometimes we focus too much on the work that we do with our hands, but this proverb is saying words are similar and they can bring blessings just like building up with one's hands. The opposite is also true. When you say bad things, selfish things, immature things, then it causes misfortune in both words and action. So 12:14 showing us the importance of words. They can build or tear down just like with the work of our hands as well. Let's look at verse 15. The way of a fool seems right to him, but a wise man listens to advice. Very good, very good. Now, we've said in previous lessons, I've said this very enlightening truth that I only heard and realized like 2 years ago, but it's totally true. It's this: everything a person does makes total sense to them. Okay? That goes for all of us. So how do we know if we're on the right track or the wrong track? How do we know if we're being wise or being foolish? If everything we do makes sense to us, everything our mirror opposite does makes sense to them, how do we know that we are being wise and we're on the right track? The answer is we check and we double check. Like this verse says, we listen to advice. We get feedback. We ask people what they think. We kind of get the lay of the land. We read the room. We adapt when we learn new things, when we hear new things, then we change whatever we realize wasn't right in the way that we were speaking or acting or thinking. That's the way of a wise person. They listen to advice. They accept correction. But what about a fool? A fool is not interested in any kind of correction or evaluating it all or double checking it all, because a fool assumes that they are always right. So anyone who disagrees with them is automatically always wrong. That's why for a foolish person, words will just dump out. They'll spew craziness that's not connected to reality, that doesn't help anything, and they don't care what others think. They're just not interested in listening. But this verse reminds us that a wise person is humble. They recognize that they are not all knowing, that they are not all perfect. A wise person recognizes that they have a lot to learn. Something else that we said in our previous discussions was that we should wake up every morning, and one part of our simple prayer can be, "Dear God, teach me something new today," because I guarantee you have not learned everything yet. So wake up and say that prayer. Here's a funny side note story that just happened yesterday for me, so I have to share. At bedtime, I'm tucking in our youngest son. He's in 4th grade. And I say, tell me about your day. How was your day? How was school? Did you learn a lot of good things at school today? And he said, no, I didn't learn enough. And I said, well, what do you mean? What do you mean you didn't learn enough? And he said, well, I have to go back tomorrow, right? Yes. And he goes, well, then I didn't learn enough because I have to go back. And I said, you're not wrong. It is true that you have not learned all of the knowledge in all of human history. So yes, you do need to go back to fourth grade tomorrow so that you can continue learning. And good for him for realizing that he had not learned it all yet. He had not learned enough, so he needed to keep going back to school. Same is true for us. No matter how old we are on the outside, there's always room to learn, and a wise person is open to advice and input to help them improve, to help them grow. Okay, let's look at the next verses. And here's what we're going to do. We're going to read verse 16 and 18, chat about them, then read verses 17 and 19, because those kind of every other verses, they're kind of connected. So I'm going to read verses 16 and 18, chapter 12. A fool shows his annoyance at once, but a prudent man overlooks an insult. Reckless words pierce like a sword, but the tongue of the wise brings healing. Okay, these verses show the importance of staying calm, of not rushing, not saying the first thing that pops into your head. And this is really important. And it is something that everybody needs to work on and needs to be aware of. Getting annoyed at once, like it said, or speaking recklessly, like it said, that's not only the behavior of a fool. It really is a basic human behavior. We all struggle with it, okay? The world isn't just wise people and foolish people. It's people who are trying to grow and mature into wisdom. So we all struggle with this. We all need to work hard to grow past this. That's why sometimes when I'm talking about the wisdom that Proverbs is helping us learn here, I'll use the word maturity. It's about growing up, growing past your childish instincts. We all start out acting like children because we all start out as children. That's very natural. Proverbs wants to help us grow out of that childish behavior of crying and screaming whenever we don't get what we want, throwing a temper tantrum if we don't get what we want. So these verses are saying we should not fly off the handle or be impulsive or just say whatever pops into our heads at any time. We need to slow down. Maybe if it's a tense situation, first thing you do, take a big breath, slow yourself down so you don't lose your cool or make things worse. Really think about what's being said, what you're seeing, what's happening, what you're feeling inside, what you might be tempted to say, what could be helpful in this situation, what can bring healing, like verse 18 said. Consider what the implications might be for the words that we are tempted to shout out. These are great verses because they help us not to just react in anger or get defensive. They encourage us to use words that help everyone gain clarity and bring healing, like it said. It raises another good point, these verses. Sometimes we have to help someone hear what they don't like if we are really to be about the work of healing. If we really want to be wise and therefore have a mouth and a tongue that speaks wisdom and brings healing, then that takes a lot of work. The first step, yes, might be slowing ourselves down and not just lashing out with our tongue, with our words. And the second step is realizing that if we are to bring about healing, it might require some courage to say some things to people that helps them grow, helps give them some clarity about the situation. Everything we say should help the person who's hearing it, should help bring healing, should help build them up. We should always speak the truth in love. Sometimes that can mean saying things that people don't like. No one likes to hear if they have messed up. But if we can speak it in love, hopefully they can pick up on that genuine concern that we have for them and maybe be a little more receptive. And I'm not talking about the kind of passive aggressive kind of like, well, some people are talking and maybe you shouldn't do that. Like, you know what I mean. But matter of factly, talking about, hey man, hey buddy, hey friend, I just want you to know, like, I'm seeing this behavior, or you're kind of, this isn't helping you so much. I'm kind of worried about you, but doing so in love to bring healing. The tongue of the wise brings healing, and that's easier read than done. That takes a lot of intention and a lot of patience, genuine concern and love, concern about the relationship that you have with people. Whereas on the other hand, what does it say? Reckless words pierce like a sword, and a fool shows his annoyance at once. A fool doesn't care about relationships because a fool thinks that they are the only one who matters. They are the center of the universe. So what does the other person matter at all? A wise, mature person, on the other hand, knows that strengthening others, strengthening themselves, and the relationship together are all related. That's the kind of godly view that we should have, is our relationship with all other people, not speaking recklessly. Okay, let's read verses 17 and 19. A truthful witness gives honest testimony, but a false witness tells lies. Truthful lips endure forever, but a lying tongue lasts only a moment. And going back to what we just said, speaking the truth in love, you can't speak the truth in love if you don't speak the truth at all. Truthfulness is vitally important to bringing healing and building people up, and for just you leading a righteous life. It's so important. God included it in the top 10 list of commandments. Thou shalt bear no false witness, to use the King James Version. When you are not truthful, you can't be trusted. You can't build and strengthen relationships. When people lie, they do so for their own benefit, either to gain something good for themselves or to prevent harm for themselves, getting in trouble. And when you are dishonest, you are denying just the very reality of life and the reality of the world around you. So that's why being dishonest doesn't help anyone, doesn't build anyone up. Only speaking the truth in love builds us all up. Being dishonest leads to hurt, it leads to harm, it leads to ignorance and denial. And like I said, just not even acknowledging what's really going on out in the world, either between you and another person, or just like with whole societies and countries and people who are suffering and people who are being oppressed. When we're dishonest, when we deny and we pretend that something's not the way that it really is, then we're not bringing healing as we are supposed to. Even if a truth is hard to hear, we need to know what that truth is so we can decide how to address it. That is the way of maturity. The childish approach is to pretend like nothing is bad, to never fess up when you have messed up. But it takes, the parent, the adult, to say, look, I know you did this. I know you spilled or you broke this. So we need to talk about it and figure out how we can rebuild, how we can improve. That's the kind of honesty that is noticed. And like these verses say, you build a reputation of trustworthiness, of honesty, of being mature, being the adult in the room. Okay, let's read verses 20 and 21, and then we will be done. There is deceit in the hearts of those who plot evil, but joy for those who promote peace. No harm befalls the righteous, but the wicked have their fill of trouble. Now, maybe you're like me. The first time I read that verse, I went, I don't know about that. No harm befalls the righteous. I've heard of a lot of righteous people experiencing a lot of bad days. The wicked have their fill of trouble. I don't know. I've heard of a lot of wicked people doing really well in life, making a lot of money, getting a lot of attention and authority and power. But then I catch myself and I remember, no, 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 no. That is worldly thinking. That's like materialism kind of thinking, money and authority and privilege. That's worldly thinking. That's not spiritual thinking. The more righteous that you can grow, then the less trouble you will feel on the inside. I want you to think of someone who's like the most mature person you know, the most developed, maybe the most wise, one of the most wisest people that you've known in your life. And you like imagine kind of how level they are, how like kind of even keeled, that even when something bad happens, and it's gonna in life, something bad's gonna happen in life, then they're able to accept that, and they have that kind of perspective, that kind of godly view of things. Things aren't perfect 100% of the time in life, so we really need to develop this kind of maturity and wisdom to help us address those frustrating times with grace and with perspective, and not just throw a temper tantrum or say reckless, rash words. Okay, that is all the verses that we will read tonight. We'll pause there. It's always tempting just to kind of keep going because there's lots and lots and lots of these really good Proverbs to talk about. But the final thoughts, two final thoughts as we conclude this study. The study has been about words, but the words aren't actually the real important things. The words are just the end result. And I want us to hear Matthew 12:34 when Jesus said, "The mouth speaks what the heart is full of." So the words are the end result of what's in your heart. You should actually focus on what's inside. It's not like the words are important, yes, but the words that you speak and others speak show something deeper of what's really going on deep down. Our words can help us realize maybe what's going on inside of us. So do listen to your words. Do your words build respect for others and for yourself? Do your words set a godly example? Think about times when you heard words coming out of your mouth that you didn't like so much. Where was it coming from? Where was the deeper issue that your words were expressing? So that's one kind of secret of this lesson. The second secret reveal of this lesson is, and I think I might have said this earlier, the world isn't made up of wise people and fools. It's not that complete dichotomy. Proverbs uses that dichotomy just to really show the difference of what the difference is like when we're living this way or living the other. But really, the world is made up of people, and sometimes we're at different points on that spectrum, and sometimes we can really, really grow, but then have a setback, and we have bad days and are just really acting out, really saying things that we shouldn't. So it's important when we kind of can lean back towards wisdom. If we need to make amends and tell people, gosh, I was really reckless that day, I was lashing out, I was just emotional, or whatever it was. It's a spectrum of growth, and we never reach the end. It's never like we can be this or we can be this, and that's like a full stop. No, we can always grow. We can always grow more wise. So think of it as a spectrum. It's not just kind of binary, fool, wise, this or that. It's a spectrum. You can always grow, keep growing more wise, and we're always tempted to act in those childish ways of immaturity, of foolishness, of selfishness. So we got to keep pushing, keep working, and keep being conscious and aware. And our words help us be conscious and aware of what's really going on. So that's the study that we have for today. I encourage you to keep your eyes and your ears open this week. Listen for your words and others. What are they saying about yourself and what's going on in other people? And really try hard to grow in that kind of wisdom, practice that kind of wisdom, so that others can hear the trustworthiness and the integrity that comes out of your mouth as you speak words of the wise and bring healing to others. Good to see you again back this week, and we will continue next week as we continue our study jumping throughout the book of Proverbs. Take care. I'll see you then. Bye-bye.